the great equalizer. Well, I have to watch the footage, but I seen him jump, so I'm sure I hit him.
Late season. Those two words can feel much more like a curse than a blessing. I've been writing for bow hunting magazines since 1991, and every year the editors want me to write something about late season hunting. I feel almost bad, like I should issue a disclaimer, like the fellow that talks really fast at the end of a radio commercial telling you all the things you shouldn't take too literally from the previous ad. It might sound something like, "The success you have read about in this article is not representative of what you can generally expect when hunting during the late season. Your results may vary." And vary they will. There's no reason to beat around the bush. Late season is really tough with a bow no matter where you hunt. And it is even hard with a gun on all but those properties with limited hunting pressure and at least one good food source. Not everyone has access to places like that. So as the disclaimer goes, your results may vary. But wherever and however you hunt the late season, there are a few principles that will make your hunting more successful. It has been beaten into our heads that a cold snap will get the deer moving in daylight during this time. And that is certainly true, but there is more to the temperature game than just watching for a big drop. In fact, late season success pivots on any kind of weather break, be it a cold snap after a period of moderate temperatures or a warm snap after a period of harsh cold. To illustrate, I'm going to tell you about a couple of hunts from my farm that are classic late season success stories. The first took place in early January of 2009. Most of the preceding month had been super cold and snow covered. Then in mid-December it got worse. A half-inch of ice coated everything, locking up all the food. The deer seemingly went into hibernation. Then a warm front came through in late December and into early January. The deer completely threw caution to the wind as the ground opened back up and they went on a full-scale feeding frenzy. My friend Mike Sawyer was hunting the farm during that time with his cousin Chris Mack. They took turns filming each other, and during the course of 3 days they killed 5 deer, 3 does and 2 bucks, from one tree that was located near an alfalfa field that had just thawed. We will pick up the action from Chris's hunt on January 2nd, 2009 with a muzzleloader.
Mike, good buck, Mike, good buck. It's coming right up where those does came from last time. Okay. He's cutting through the timber and we can get the gun.
Meh.
Ready? Yeah. That's about where the crash was.
That's where we heard the cry.
The next evening, in the same tree, Mike took a giant 8-pointer, one of the biggest 8-pointers I have ever seen on this farm.
You okay? Yep. Nice shot, I tell you, if you can't get excited about that, You're not a bow hunter.
There he is.
Oh my, I'm telling you.
Chris and Mike's success was directly related to a warm front that spurred feeding after a prolonged cold spell. 2 years later, almost to the day, I experienced just the opposite. It got brutally cold at the tail end of December 2010. The high temps were in the single digits and the lows were double digits below zero. That is super cold for southern Iowa. On New Year's Day 2010, I elected to hunt a stand on the edge of a small cornfield that was still standing. The deer were already moving when we got there, and they never stopped piling into the field until we ran them off after dark. That's him. He's just breaking out down there. It's him. Though I paid the price with near frostbite on hands and face, that evening was by far the best hunting I experienced all of the 2010 season, and one of the best late season bow hunts I've ever had. The key to the hunt was the same one that brought Chris and Mike such a great hunt 2 years earlier, a significant weather break, this time the first really cold snap of the winter. So even though it may not happen very often, the late season sometimes works out, even with a bow. But without a doubt, it is much easier with a gun. In fact, this past week, Owen Reigler had one of his best late season hunts ever.
The great equalizer. Bow hunting's fun, but there comes a day where the great equalizer is just as fun. Here it is, the second day of shotgun season here in Iowa. We're back to the Chainsaw Massacre farm. This is where the two bucks were locked up here. And we've actually seen both of those bucks, not personally, but on trail cam. The one right here by this locust, so they're both doing just fine and well, so glad to see that. There's two bucks in here that I think we could see, or have a decent chance of seeing. There's a 6x7 in here. Chocolate antlered buck, he's a really cool buck. And then that split G2 buck that I've talked about before in here, he's still in here. So at least we got a couple of targets that we know about, and hopefully something that we don't know about will be in here. But we'll sit in here for a couple hours and see what happens. Man, they're putting on a mega move already. It's not even 4 o'clock and they're just filing out. This is why you do all the work. Have the food on your farm and all that kind of stuff. This is better than watching any movie I can think of. Being in the great outdoors and watching this is awesome. Heart's beating already. That's the one we were talking about, that 6x7. And he's headed this way, boy. Look at his old belly on him. Obviously he's shrunk down after the rub. He's got a big old belly on him. You on him there? bow hunting right there. Whew. That's one of the deer we were hoping to see in here, that 6x7. Chocolate antlered. He looked like he was a little either run down or hurt or something. It's only 4:20. It's still a whole nother hour till dark. That's crazy. We've seen all those. They just put on a mega move, which is a little bit surprising because it's warm. We'll have to watch the footage, but I seen him jump, so I'm sure I hit him. Next one up should be that one with the tall brows. There he is right there coming up the terrace. Man, is he ever gorgeous. I got 3 years of history with that buck. That's the other one we talked about. We got in here, that split G2 buck. Oh, hunted what, 35 days with a bow. Never laid eyes on him or this 6x7. We just couldn't get a shooter in front of us. That's the way the rut is, it seems like, you know. They're so haphazard. Early and late almost seems like better when you've got, you know, food. Man, he's a beauty.
Hey, sure enough, that's what we were seeing. From over there, you can see his white belly. Good big deer. Look at that thing. Ooh. Well, here he is. We had just a little bit of trouble finding him there, but we finally spotted his white belly. We could see from the other side of the ditch right there. Couldn't find much of a blood trail, but walked right up to him here. Gorgeous buck. Not often you get 7 typical points on one side. That's pretty cool. And I didn't even notice he had a little split right there on that too. Real short 2s. 3's a little better, but what a cool buck. And he looks pretty darn old to me. I wonder what he is. It'd be interesting. We'll send his teeth in as well and get him aged, but he's one that just showed up about the end of the rut. He came in, we started getting pictures of him, and he was one we wanted to target along with that split G2 buck. So awesome evening, one of the best I can remember. Awesome hunt.
Now it is time to check in with the rest of our teams. Many of them, myself, Jared, and Josh Sparks included, are riding the pine, on the sideline, waiting for the official restart of Iowa's bow season that will come right before Christmas. However, Josh Honeycutt has been hunting regularly in Kentucky. Josh's target during the past 3 weeks has been a buck he calls GP. The saga began on November 22nd when the buck stepped out behind a doe and offered an open shot.
Bah, bah.
Unfortunately, we all miss, and GP lived to see another day. Josh's next encounter came on December 10th. Through an interesting twist of logic, Josh decided to leave his stand shortly after seeing the buck, an hour before the end of legal shooting time. The deer was heading toward the only exit route that Josh has to leave that farm, and he didn't want to run into the buck and spook him on his way out after dark. Josh saw the wisdom in keeping the buck from knowing that he was being hunted, so that hopefully the deer would stay on a daylight pattern. That strategy proved effective when Josh got a daylight photo of the buck on December 13th, and then hunted him on the 14th. The buck was one of several deer that came out that evening, but unfortunately he entered the field after camera light, so Josh snuck off without the buck being any the wiser. For sure, we will update you again next week on Josh Honeycutt's quest for this cool Kentucky buck. We have another intern with an Iowa tag. If you remember Grant Noble from back in November, he is Jared's intern. These guys are here to work and learn. It is not like they have unlimited time to hunt. So Grant decided to take advantage of the break in Jared's hunting schedule to get out for 4 days during Iowa's second shotgun season, which opened Saturday. After that, he plans to spend several days hunting Kentucky when he's home for Christmas. Like Josh Honeycutt's story, look for an update to Grant's story during each of the next 2 weeks. Finally, we come to Mike Reed and his lonely quest for a buck in the urban zone near his eastern Iowa home. In the urban zone, you take what you can get. Small timber tracks, no blinds, no food plots. It is late season in a tree, carrying a bow and hoping for a lightning strike. Mike took several days off from hunting but renewed his quest on December 13th when he hunted over a picked cornfield. Though he saw decent deer numbers, he didn't see any mature bucks. We will also keep following Mike's quest in the urban zone as we run up to the Christmas season. Well, that's it for this week. By late season standards, it was pretty good. But now we look ahead. I've heard rumblings that Owen Reigler is at it again. He took a friend out in his farm and successfully tagged another buck. I'm sure the details of that one will surface soon, and the other stories we've been following will continue to play out. Late season is gun time. This is when many of our teams pull out what Owen calls the great equalizer. Most of us will be back with bows in hand, but for now it is fun to watch stuff actually fall. Like gun writer Craig Boddington once told me, bow hunting is like shopping and gun hunting is like buying. Well, gluttons for punishment that we are, we will be back to shopping again soon. These stories and more will continue to unfold right here every week. We appreciate you joining us on this journey. We will see you right back here again next week for the next episode of Midwest Whitetail, and remember to always dream big.